What's up, Celtics fans? Subscribe to Boston Celtics today for trade coverage between now and the deadline on February 10th. More news, rumors. Let's get to 8,000 subs as soon as possible. The more we can grow here, the more videos Chase and I can do. So hit that big red button. All right, any given Thursday, he's Chase, I'm Harrison. Trade rumors heating up, Chase, as the Celtics continue to kind of be one step forward, two steps back. What's the latest around Boston?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum have been balling out the last couple of games, and this is kind of what Celtics fans have been hoping for a little while, but still not sure if that roster is good enough to make a deep run in the NBA playoffs. That's why some of these trade rumors are starting to come to the surface leading up to that February 10th NBA trade deadline. So the Celtics rumors roundup right now, according to multiple reports out there, Boston may be looking into a reunion with Jeff Green. Aaron Nesmith and Dennis Schroder could be on the table in trade discussions. Jalen Smith, the second-year big man out of Maryland, who wasn't good last year, has taken some steps forward this year, would fulfill a need in that front court for the Celtics from the Phoenix Suns, also a trade possibility. Now, for Jeff Green, familiar face, right, Harrison? I mean, he was with the Celtics, played under Brad Stevens with Boston from 2010, 2011 to 2014, 2015. And if you remember, he had missed a year back then because he had to undergo that really serious heart issue that he was able to come back from, and he's went on to have a very, very successful NBA career. And while he was with Boston, he's a pretty solid player. As kind of a 3-and-D guy before that became a popular term, 14.5 points per game. He shot around 44% from the floor, 34% from distance. He's right now with the Denver Nuggets, and in minimal time as a part-time starter and bench player, he's putting up pretty good numbers as well. So Jeff Green having a pretty good year, 10 points per game. You know, he's shooting around 50% from the floor, almost 32% from three, and you like what you see from this type of player, and he's not going to cost you that much. Pretty good veteran coming off the bench as well.
And let me add this about Jeff Green. I thought the Nets made a mistake not bringing him back. I mean, when Kyrie got banged up, when Harden was banged up in the playoffs last year, he was kind of KD's sidekick in the playoffs and had a couple of huge games. I can't remember who it was against. He dropped like 30 against somebody in the playoffs last year. And you're like, Jeff Green, Jeff Green. And he like continues to play well deep into his career. And you say the Celtics are familiar. Well, so are several other teams. But everywhere he plays, Chase, he is a key role player. He's doing it for Denver this year. He did it for Brooklyn last year. And I think if you get him into Boston, you know what he is. And the beauty of Jeff Green, he knows exactly who he is as a player. He's a good mid-range guy that can get to the rim as well. He can occasionally knock down a three-point shot. And he's a versatile defender that can play multiple positions.
He's played in a lot of big games, too, throughout his entire career. And I understand he's played for a lot of NBA teams. Doesn't mean that he's a scrub. He's just had opportunities with a lot of NBA teams. And last year with Brooklyn, you kind of alluded to this. I mean, he made a couple of really big shots and was thrust into a major role once Kyrie Irving went down and James Harden went out. So you take a look at these stats once more. Good job by producer Jeremy for kind of changing this on the fly. 10 points per game this year, 50% from the deck, 32% from distance. Field goal attempts per game at only 7. So he's shooting 50% on only 7 attempts.
He's maximizing
his opportunities as kind of a mid-range guy who can knock down that corner triple.
Yeah, and listen, again, it's a cliche, he's the ultimate glue guy. I mean, he's PJ Tucker with more offense and a little less defense. I mean, I'm not saying they're the right guy, but everywhere those two guys are, their teams win. I mean, that's just how it goes. So I think if you could bring him to Boston, I'm not saying it makes you a contender, but I think it helps. It gets you depth. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Do you want a reunion with Jeff Green? Boston fans, stand up. Type R for reunion. Type P for pass. I think for the right price, I would do it. I mean, could you get him for a second-round pick? I mean, I'd throw Nesmith for Jeff Green. I mean, you say he could be on the table. Aaron Nesmith is giving you nothing. As a second-year player now. So let us know what you guys think on that one. And Celtics fans, if you want to make some money betting on NBA games, also go bet on the playoffs. The Patriots got a big game coming up with the Buffalo Bills on Wild Card Weekend. Go check that out. You can check out those betting odds and several other bets as well. Chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code CHAT125. That's going to get you a 125% deposit bonus when you sign up. So go check that out. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code CHAT125. All right, let's shift now to Aaron Nesmith and Dennis Schroder. What's the latest here? Could they get dealt?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Dennis Schroder, you can kind of look at this as in a couple of ways, right? He signed that one-year deal for $5.9 million, and so far it's been wonderful for Boston.
Yep.
So that can either be valuable for some teams who are cap-strapped, valuable for the Celtics because of what they're getting back, but also he's not under contract for a long while, only one-year deal. So because he's with Boston and playing well, can they afford him on the price tag that he's going to demand in NBA free agency next year? Probably not. That's why he's being involved in some of these NBA trade discussions. This according to Hoops Hype on Schroder and Nesmith. Celtics making Schroder available, making a ton of sense since they'll have limitations re-signing him this offseason, as I just talked about. The possibility that Nesmith might be available has to be a little bit concerning. He has not progressed from last year and doesn't have a firm role in the rotation. He hasn't played since returning from health and safety protocol, so maybe he's another guy the Celtics look to move to to move below that luxury tax. And for Dennis Schroder, we talk about that progression and him just being better than he was last year, him being kind of a steal in free agency for that price tag. 16 points per game for a guy who's only making 5.9. We talked about it here when they broke the news several months ago. It's been good for Boston.
Yeah, I mean, listen, those still probably aren't numbers worthy of $21 million a year, which is what he was offered at one point. But
he was never worth that, though.
No, exactly. I mean, this has got to be one of the best bargain signings of free agency last year. I mean, you're getting 16 and 5 consistently per night for a guy that's making less than $6 million in today's NBA. I mean, how many guys making $6 million or less are averaging more points in the NBA? I'd love to look that up. It can't be many. I mean, maybe guys on their rookie contracts are making more. There's certainly a few of those guys. But for veteran players, guys who have played well for a long time, to get that production at that price tag, that is why teams are going to come calling for Dennis Schroder, because teams that are chasing a championship, and if Boston doesn't think they can get there this year, maybe you do ship him out, because he might cost $13, $14, $15 million in free agency this offseason. And if you're Boston, you probably don't want to pay that much for him. So maybe trading him now does make some sense.
Yeah. So what would you do with Schroder? Type D for give him the dollars. Type V for trade him, get some value back. I'm kind of leaning get some value back. And I think you could get a pretty solid player.
Unless you think that you can win pretty big this year, maybe not a championship, but a series or two, I would trade him. See if I can get a young piece or a first-round pick and say, hey, Dennis, kudos to balling out. We helped you reset your career after the Lakers contract meltdown. Go ball out on a playoff team and get the bag in the offseason. I mean, it's a win-win for both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, Celtics kicking the tires on Jalen Smith, our next trade rumor for Boston coming up. And a lot of people didn't realize and probably have forgotten that Jalen Smith out of Maryland last year was a top 10 pick of the Phoenix Suns, but he was really hidden behind the shadows of DeAndre Ayton last year, who really went on to have the best year of his career. This year, though, it's been really, really good. Points per game at 7.5, rebounds per game at 5.3, blocks per game at 0.5, but again, minimal minutes per night. But given the minutes that he's getting, he's certainly taken advantage of that. Field goal percentage at nearly 50. And for a Celtics team that I feel like we're just like rinsing and repeating here, Harrison. We were saying this last year around this time when I came to Chat Sports, like, you need a better big man.
Yeah.
Now, you have Robert Williams, who the Time Lord has had a good year, given that contract. He's good. But in terms of depth pieces, do you want Jalen Smith over a guy like Enes Freedom? He gives you a little bit more athletic explosion.
Yeah.
And you're also getting a player who might have some upside down the road, still has a couple of years left on that rookie contract. So this is kind of interesting for me, considering how Jalen Smith has played this season.
Robert Williams is the only big on your roster that you could argue is still improving.
Yeah.
Al Horford,
he's
been solid this year, but he's not an improving player. Enes Freedom, we know what he is at this point. He's a 15 minutes off the bench guy that can score at times in bunches, but that's it. He's bad defensively. He's getting older. That's kind of it, man. Like, you don't have a ton of guys there, moving forward with the needle pointing up. Whereas if you got Jalen Smith with Robert Williams, sure, either of those guys world beaters? No, but you got two young, energetic guys that can help build this roster moving forward. So grade Jalen Smith as a player. You're playing 2K at the crib. You're going through your fantasy draft to build your roster. You're getting to the 6th, 7th round. Oh, there's Jalen Smith at a 74 overall. Let us know, what's his 2K scale grade? Scale it from 1 to 100.